Welcome to the Midnight Narrator, where the shadows tell stories and the whispers in the trees reveal hidden truths. Tonight's tale, The Whispers in the Trees, unravels a haunting journey of stolen identities, relentless pursuit, and a mother's love that transcends the veil between life and death. Who are we without our past? And what would you do if the life you knew was built on lies? Brace yourself for a story where the forest holds secrets, and the whispers might just call your name. Ready to venture into the unknown? I initially found it exciting. We lived in a motorhome, constantly moving. One week we were in the deserts of Arizona, the next in the mountains of Colorado. We had fragmented memories of our lives before this, only knowing we were born in Boise and that we were never supposed to stay in one place for long. We always knew our family was different, but we didn't understand the extent of it. Our parents had struggled to conceive, and we, my twin sister and I, were their long-awaited children. Their precious gifts. It was often a burden, but it affirmed our importance to them. Ilara and I were close, as siblings often are. We were each other's primary companions, having been homeschooled our entire lives. We felt isolated. We never parked in established campgrounds with amenities, always choosing remote locations deep within national forests. It was peaceful in a way, but anyone familiar with the wilderness knows it holds its own dangers. The first time I personally sensed something was amiss was shortly before our 7th birthday, while we were parked near a small town in Alberta. We were forbidden from wandering off, but as curious 6-year-olds, the vast unexplored wilderness was too tempting. We waited until our parents were asleep, slipped out of the motorhome through a loose window and ventured into the woods with a flickering flashlight. We soon noticed a faint light ahead, not from our flashlight. It emanated from something further into the trees. We quickly discovered the source. It was a woman, carrying a crude, makeshift lantern. But she looked nothing like an ordinary woman. Her hair was tangled and patchy, her skin a sickly yellow-gray. Her teeth were discolored and uneven, and I could see a portion of her exposed gum line. She wore a tattered hospital gown. I had no idea where the nearest medical facility might be, but it had to be a considerable distance, as we hadn't seen a paved road in what felt like days. Ilara and I froze, gripped by fear. For the first time, I instinctively reached for her hand. The figure extended a gaunt arm towards us. She uttered a low, guttural sound like, "Hush! Babies!" that jolted me into action, and I pulled Ilara back, sprinting towards the motorhome. Miraculously, we made it back undetected. We barely slept and were too shaken to speak to our parents the following morning, let alone tell them what we'd seen. Would they have believed us anyway? Subsequent events made belief unavoidable. When we opened the motorhome door, we found the remnants of our previous night's activities. A campfire reduced to ashes, the charcoal sticks we'd used for drawing scattered, and a small table with a few empty food tins, utterly destroyed. It wasn't the work of wild animals. It appeared deliberate, as if someone had meticulously arranged the destruction. Words scrawled on the back of the motorhome confirmed this. Using the charcoal, someone had written, "Nowhere is safe." Our mother made a hurried breakfast while our father cleaned the mess. We departed shortly after, driving for hours without stopping. Our parents spoke in hushed tones as our father drove. I longed to know what they were discussing. That evening, perhaps sensing our fear, our parents took us to a rare treat, a meal at a roadside diner. It was nearly empty, which was why our parents chose it, as they disliked crowds. I was thrilled. A milkshake and a grilled sandwich was a dream come true for a 6-year-old. My joy was cut short when our parents abruptly decided we had to leave the moment another customer entered, an elderly woman. Back in the motorhome, while I sulked in my bunk, Ilara asked why we had left. Our mother sighed. "I suppose you two are almost 7, you deserve to know." "Zachary, Ilara, the reason we left is because we're afraid of losing you." "Do you remember what happened when you were 4? I had no recollection. My memory was always hazy, but Ilara claimed to remember. We were in a park near Eugene. She recalled us playing near a playground when a tall man in a dark coat approached us and knelt to our level. "We're not supposed to talk to strangers, Alara said, even then a cautious child. I'm Elias. Now we're not strangers. What are your names? I'm Finn, and this is my sister Alara. We're 4, and our birthday is August 12th, 2017, I apparently replied. His smile vanished. He grasped our hands roughly and began to lead us away. Let's go somewhere special, Finn and Alara. I have a place to take you. Our mother's eyes welled with tears. That's right. If your father and I hadn't intervened, we might never have seen you again. I took you somewhere safe, and your father, he said he did it to protect us, that the world was dangerous, that he was keeping us safe. I confronted him, our father said grimly. Alara and I exchanged glances. All right, Papa. I'm going to sleep now, Alara said, climbing into her bunk. That night, we parked somewhere in the vast Canadian wilderness. I looked out the small window and saw her, the woman in the hospital gown. She was staring at Alara and me, reaching towards us with the same gaunt hand. I turned away, trying to sleep, knowing she was there. Life continued in this way. Wherever we stopped, she was there. British Columbia, she was present. Nevada, absolutely. Montana, without a doubt. Alara and I rarely ventured out anymore, partly because we were growing older and less inclined to explore, but mostly because of the terrifying encounter in Alberta. The woman continued her pursuit. Sometimes we glimpsed her on the highway as we drove. Sometimes she appeared at the edge of our campfire's light. On the rare occasions we went into public, I thought I saw her in the distance. Whenever she was near, I heard her haunting whisper, "Hush, babies." Eventually, she stopped frightening me as much. Everything became clear the day before our 14th birthday. Our parents left the motorhome, granting us a rare few hours of solitude while they gathered supplies. We weren't parked far from a small town, about an hour's walk. We weren't particularly afraid. We'd lived in the wilderness long enough to know its rhythms, and the woman in the gown was more of a persistent presence than a direct threat. We'd almost forgotten about her. I was reading when Alara called out, "Finn, come look at this." I sighed. What could it be? We'd lived in this cramped space for almost 14 years. I knew every inch. I was wrong. Beneath the driver's seat cushion, Alara had found a box. It was small and slightly crushed, but we could tell what it was. Alara eagerly opened it. Inside were documents. It's probably just boring paperwork, I said, but the look of confusion morphing into horror on Alara's face changed my mind. They were documents, but not for work. Birth certificates for us. But the listed parents weren't ours. I was listed as Finian Riley. No one in our family was named Riley. The father's name was listed as Liam. The mother's as Maeve. Maybe we were adopted, I suggested. Alara pulled out another document and shook her head, handing it to me with trembling hands. It read, "Infants abducted from Boise Hospital, August 13th, 2017. Twins, Finian Liam Riley and Alara Maeve Riley. Active investigation. Any information should be reported to the authorities. Riley, Liam, Maeve, those weren't our names. Our last name was Thorne. And our parents were definitely not Liam and Maeve. They were Clara and Jasper. Maybe they did it to protect us. They were afraid someone would take us away, I suggested, trying to make sense of the situation. Maybe they thought they were doing the right thing." Alara pulled out another document and shook her head, handing it to me with trembling hands. It read, "Infants abducted from Boise Hospital, August 13th, 2017. Twins, Finian Liam Riley and Alara Maeve Riley. Active investigation. Any information should be reported to the authorities. Riley? Liam? Maeve? Those weren't our names. Our last name was Thorne. And our parents were definitely not Liam and Maeve. They were Clara and Jasper." Alara then revealed the third and second to last document. Boise mother of 2 murdered in hospital. Maeve Riley, 27, recently gave birth to twins, now missing, was found deceased in her hospital room. Investigators released sketches of suspects. We stared at the police sketches. They weren't exact matches, but they were the only other two faces we'd seen our entire lives. Clara and Jasper. Surveillance footage captures two individuals exiting the hospital through a service entrance with two infants. Surveillance footage captures two individuals exiting the hospital through a service entrance with two infants. Investigation continues. Do not approach these individuals. Contact law enforcement immediately. We were speechless. Alara shakily picked up the final piece of paper. It was from 2021, when we were 4. Idaho man reports sighting of abducted children. Encounter escalates. Father of victims, Liam Riley, issues plea. To my children, I don't know where you are, but I will never give up hope of seeing your faces again. You may not even remember me, but that doesn't change anything. Until we meet again, your father loves you. We were numb. What could we say? We stood in silence. Then, we heard a pounding on the motorhome door. We jumped and looked outside. It was the woman in the hospital gown, closer than ever. We could see the grayish pallor of her skin, the unsettling clarity of her pale eyes. They resembled Alara's. Hush! Babies, she moaned, reaching out again. I looked down at the newspaper clipping with Maeve's photo. I held it up to the window where the woman was staring at us. Hush, babies, she repeated. Hush, babies, my babies. All this time, she had simply wanted her children. Alara opened the motorhome door. Fear gripped me, but after everything we'd just learned, nothing seemed impossible. I followed her. Mama? Alara whispered, tears in her eyes. Hush, she said, extending her gaunt hand. Alara didn't recoil. She allowed the woman to touch her face, a gentle caress on her cheek. The woman did the same to me, then pointed towards the nearest town. Go, go, she croaked. Go? Why? Alara asked. Papa, our mother whispered. Papa, Liam Riley, was he still alive? After all these years? We have 2 hours until Clara and Jasper get back, Alara said, cutting herself off. We have to go, now. We had no idea how to reach the town, but an inexplicable sense of direction guided us. We burst into the small town's police station, likely looking disheveled and terrified. The following weeks were a whirlwind of police interviews, DNA tests, and media frenzy. Our story became a local sensation, with Clara and Jasper dubbed the Forest Keepers. They were portrayed as sinister figures who stole us and hid us deep in the wilderness. In a way, they were. It was strange seeing them behind bars, facing life sentences. They had raised us for nearly 14 years, but that was where they belonged. No more running, no more hiding. There was nowhere to hide in a prison cell. Liam wept when he saw us. We didn't. It was surreal. He was our father, biologically, but was he really? I'd met him as an infant, but there was no emotional connection. It took time, but we slowly adapted to our new lives, living in a house with our own rooms, no longer running or living in constant fear. It was peaceful, but I often found myself sneaking into Alara's room at night. After everything, I still couldn't bear to be alone. One night, there was a soft tap on our window. We both woke up and saw the woman in the hospital gown outside, but she looked different, calmer, less spectral, almost complete. Mama, I whispered. Could she stay? Could I finally have the family I'd always longed for? As if reading my thoughts, she shook her head. I have to go. My babies, she whispered, reaching her hand towards us through the glass as she slowly faded into the night. A gentle breeze stirred the curtains as she vanished, as if she had just walked away. We never saw her again, but we knew she was watching over us. This time, we wouldn't run. We had found our home, and that concludes The Whispers in the Trees, a story of stolen childhoods, a mother's spectral devotion, and a journey back to a family lost but never forgotten. The wilderness wasn't the real danger. It was the truths lurking in the shadows of their lives. Sometimes the past is more haunting than the ghosts that follow us. If tonight's tale left you wondering about the unseen bonds of family and the lengths love can go to, Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more gripping stories. Until next time, remember, not all whispers are meant to scare you. Some are a call to come home. This is the Midnight Narrator, and we'll meet again in the quiet of the night.